Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Growth Path. Today, I'm super excited to have somebody on, and I don't believe I've ever spoken to anybody that's in her field before. I've got Ellen Brennan Frat, and Ellen's a wingsuit base jumper and extreme sports athlete based in France. She has become known as the fastest flying woman in the world, which is quite the accolade to hold, I would say. Um, and That's due to her exceptional performance in wingsuit competitions. She's also a TEDx Chamonix speaker. And she was a WWL competitor 2013, 2014, 2016, 2018, and also Red Bull Aces competitor in 2014. So, Ellen, great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. So, how does one become a wingsuit base jumper? That's my first question because I was looking at your profile. I was like, where do I start? Because I remember watching these videos I don't know 15 years ago. Like there was these videos going around with like people are awesome videos. I don't know if you remember those like
Yeah.
videos on YouTube. And that was the first time I came across somebody that was in a wingsuit, and I was like, what in the name of Jesus is that? But it looks awesome. So, like, how did you get into it?
Yeah. So I really kind of just fell into it, if we could say.
I see what you did
um,
there.
yeah. Yeah. Um, so like how I got into it was really through trying to be conservative. I started skydiving when I turned 18 and I loved it. So my dad said continue. And then we started doing a lot of skydives from hot air balloons. And I realized that jumping from a hot air balloon, we're jumping lower, and it's better to have a base parachute, which is packed like a reserve. It opens really nicely because I was having a lot of malfunctions jumping with the skydiving gear. So it's like for safety, I should probably learn to base jump. So I took a base jumping course in Idaho, where there's a nice bridge and you're allowed to jump legally there. You can sign up for a course once you've had about 200 skydives. And there I did my first base jumping course. Shortly thereafter, I came to Switzerland to jump off of some big cliffs around like 3,000 feet. And I realized that if you're jumping off the cliff without a wingsuit on, you're opening your parachute right next to the cliff, which is super unsafe if you have a malfunction. Like you could have your parachute facing the wall and then you hit the wall, and then you get broken. And I didn't want to do that. So I was like, maybe for
Sure.
safety, I should get a wingsuit. So the next season, I came back with a wingsuit on and was able to fly out into the middle of the valley and open my parachute over lovely grass fields. And yeah, just did it out mainly out of like pure obsession for the sport and safety.
So
But if anyone wants to do it, you what?
I was not expecting you to say for safety reasons is why you started with the wingsuit, by the way. That was like that's definitely
Yeah,
not something I was expecting. But that's super interesting.
yeah. I mean, I just love getting outside and hiking to places people don't go, and then flying down and like feeling all the speed and power and energy that you get from this. So it's like I wanted to be able to do it consistently for a long time, have this be like a forever sport, not just like a stunt. So for me, I've always had safety in the back of my mind.
I mean, is it do you ever find yourself afraid?
Yeah. Yeah. No, so if you're not afraid when you're standing at the edge of a cliff, there's something wrong. Definitely something wrong. Um, but then there's like the difference of being like having some fear and being terrified. So like a little bit of healthy fear is a good thing. It's going to help you be more alert and help you react in intense situations. But when you're terrified, this is when you like freeze up and you don't react well. So there's been times where I'm at the edge of like up on top of a mountain and I actually do have like a bad feeling. And in that case, like I just don't jump. Like, like sometimes I try to calm it
Mm-hmm.
down, like reassess, like why am I so uncomfortable? Like, is it something internally going on, like my mood, my sleep, something like that? Is it the conditions are too dangerous or the exit is too dangerous? Or like sometimes I've had times where I've just been like, there's just this weird feeling and like everything's perfect. And I'm like, you know what? Like it's not worth it. Like that it's one jump, like I have my whole life ahead of me. So I don't need to take a huge risk if there's something in the back of my mind telling me not to go.
So it's your gut, like you listen to your gut. Like that's it. Like I mean, it's the only way to describe it. It's a gut feeling saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
something's not quite right here."
Yeah. And like, I don't know, like maybe I'm somebody kind of a little bit wooey, but like I feel like there's, this other level of things that are going on around us, different energy, and like maybe just like my subconscious knows something that I don't know, and I don't know how to interpret it or understand it, but like I definitely have learned to listen to it because it's usually right.
Mm. Did you ever have a time when you didn't listen to it and something could have gone wrong?
Um,
I mean, you're doing pretty high stakes stuff, so
yeah.
we're talking now. So I mean, so like probably not is the answer to that. But
No, I usually listen to that gut feeling. And I think also like being a woman in this sport, it's easier to listen to that and not have like your ego play into what's going on.
mm,
I've noticed a lot like when we're going with like a group of like typically 5 other people, mostly men, there's like the herd mentality where everyone's kind of like being macho and there's like this sense of commitment and proving yourself and showing what you're capable of doing.
mm,
And most women in the sport don't have that. Like everyone, like we're just kind of here to like have a good time. Most of us,
mm,
like, I mean, most
mm.
of the men too, but there's the ego is much different than men versus women.
You see that across all walks of life. To be fair, I mean, the peer pressure that we put on ourselves as men as well to say, "Oh, we need to do it, we need to do it," and yeah, that doesn't always end well, which is yeah, fair. But
Yeah.
tell me, like, so? Are you still actively doing it right now?
Yeah. So I am
Yeah.
still jumping. I'm jumping much less often because I just have 2 kids.
Mm,
So I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. So the last 5 years have been much less jumping than before because
mm,
since having kids, I've decided I need to have like everything needs to be perfect. Like my tolerance for risk is minuscule when it comes to jumping. So like I need to have good sleep, good weather, nice cliff, like everything has to be perfect. And honestly, like with young kids, it's really hard for all that to line up. Nearly
forget
impossible.
it.
Yeah. So I went
Forget
from
it.
jumping, yeah. I probably was making like 200 or 300 jumps a year before they were born, and now I'm making like 20 to 50, really depending. But now this year is like the first year I'm actually committed to going to my first wingsuit competition since 2018.
Nice.
So yeah, now I'm like on a putting myself into like a training program, going to go do indoor wingsuit tunnel flying in Sweden to like train and get my skills back up to on par with everyone else. But now there's like a whole new generation coming through, so we'll see. It'll still be awesome to be there with everybody, but I don't think I'll be
Absolutely.
winning any gold medals this time.
Where's the competition taking place?
It's in the Dolomites at Saspordoy.
Very nice.
So
Very nice.
beautiful, beautiful place. And it's always a good vibe. Like every time you go to a competition, it's like we're all friends. So it's like a friendly competition always. And
Mm.
everyone's helping each other. Everyone's giving each other tips on how to get better and what to think about. And your skill set always just improves massively at these things.
What does the training regime look like for something like that?
So there's different parts of the competition. First, the most obvious is just the speed. So flying quickly. So body position and learning how to fly your wingsuit in the most dynamic position possible to get the
Hmm.
best speed. Depending on the course, because there's also short courses versus long courses. So you have to learn the best speed for different angles. Sometimes the shorter line is faster, sometimes the steeper line is faster. So there's a lot of calculations and studying that goes into that. Then the next part is your exit. So making sure you leave the cliff the same time the timer goes off will make or break your score, basically. So we use the same timing. This competition, at least, is using the same timing system as they use in the Olympics. And they send out the recorded beeps to everybody so everyone can train with the sound. Because that can really make like 2 seconds difference on a short course is insanely. It's just, yeah, game over, basically. Um, yeah, those are mainly the main sections. And then also just making sure that you are not pulling too low because often in speed competitions you like to fly steep and
Hmm.
always there's a requirement in every competition to have a certain amount of canopy time before you land. So if you pull too low, you're automatically disqualified for being unsafe. So the assessment of where you're at and just being very accurate with how you're using your airspace.
So the way that you're describing is very much sounds like you're flying a plane, but you're actually flying yourself,
Yeah.
which is super interesting, right? So how fast are you going?
Oh, well, it depends on the course, but on average, like 200 kilometers per hour is like a normal healthy flight outside of competition, like a nice fast flight. And then up to like 250 is pretty standard, 250 kilometers per hour.
That is wild. That's like that's I'd say the rush you get off that is just out of this world. I mean, do you still get the same adrenaline rush now as you always have? Like, or is it hard to get similar highs or the same feeling as what you got early on?
No, I still get it for sure.
Amazing.
I feel like a lot of times, like when you're getting the what you would call an adrenaline rush, like for me, I'd call it like a dopamine dump or something. Um, it's usually you're getting it from pushing your limits just a little bit further than what you're comfortable with. So for me, like what I've done throughout my career, it's been almost 20 years of jumping. I've realized like different seasons or different years, I'll be focusing on different things in order to help push my limits a bit. So, for instance, like one year I would be practicing or pushing my limits on jumping more technical exit points. And then other years I'd be pushing my limits on the approach, so like more alpine approach. So, not changing everything at once, but always having one part of the adventure challenging. Or the flight, there was also obviously a couple of years of like trying to fly low and getting a really cool line and hitting targets and so there's always like a mood of the season of what you're trying to push, what I was trying to
Uh,
push.
Physically as well, I guess you need to be top fit, right? For it, is it like you need to have like full control of your body at all times, right? I
Yeah, it's
like
better.
Yeah, obviously, clearly, yeah. That's a stupid comment. But no, but
No,
obviously, you probably need to be like the top of your game when it comes to fitness as well, right?
it really is helpful. There's some, it depends on what kind of jumping you're doing. Like I really like to do jumps where you're hiking for like 2 or 3 hours to get to where you want to go. And if you're not in good shape, the people that do those hikes get to the top and are just smoked. And like they jump, they get like muscle cramps, they don't fly well, like your head's not connected. Like it's super scary. And people have died because of muscle cramping in the past. So
Yeah.
like if that's the kind of jumping you like to do, you absolutely have to be fit and you have to have slept well and eaten well. Like all these things make a big difference. There's other type of jumpers that like to go to places where you take a chairlift up and you can like session the same jump 10 times in one day if you want, which also requires like stamina. It's not like it's different. Physically fit, you don't have to be you could be a little bit heavy set or not have great cardio health and still do that fairly safely.
Fairly safely. The word "fairly" there is I think is the word of choice in this. Is like fairly safely is yeah. But do you also need to be mentally fit as well because you need to make so many quick decisions, right?
Exactly. That's not kind of why I said fairly safe, because after you've done the same jump 10 times in one day, like mentally you are exhausted. Like
Yeah.
the mental fatigue is real. And I don't think a lot of people take that into consideration. Like I remember there was one season we jumped a ton in Chamonix. So we had chairlift access to some super technical jumps. And people were jumping, like 5 to 10 times a day. And it's like flying super hard lines and just like accidents were happening because
Of course, yeah.
either out of complacency or out of mental fatigue, there's, it could be many different things, but it's definitely more risky.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, so so talking about like mental resiliency and being able to keep up with that type of pace when you're training, etc. How have you taken that into the real world? Like you've said that you have a couple of kids, a couple of young kids now as well. So like obviously the wingsuit base jumping is taking a backseat to that almost as you mentioned before. How do you find that sort of quick decision making, gut feeling that you had when before a jump, etc.? How do you find that coming into day to day life for you?
Yeah, well, I guess in my day to day life, the most remarkable thing I can say I've gotten from jumping is just like how I perceive stress in day to day life is just like so not stressful.
Mm.
I see people stressing about certain things and you're like, that's really nothing. Like, it's not a big deal. Like when I've dealt with stress of, I mean, making some pretty quick decisions during a flight when I need to adapt my flight because things aren't going right, or I made a horrible decision and jumped in. Okay, for instance, the most stressed of my life I think I've ever been is this is when I was a newer jumper. We hiked up to a cliff with like four other friends, and it was a long hike, 3 hours or so. We got to the top, we were in the clouds, and we were waiting for hours. We were getting cold, and then we heard some thunderstorms coming in. We're on top of a mountain, and I was like, okay, like if there's a hole in the clouds, if we can see like a dark spot in the clouds, that means just through the cloud we should be able to see the ground. And I had a friend on the ground saying, yeah, the clouds are moving through, like there's thin parts and thick parts. So I was like, okay, so I think the best decision, which was not the right decision, was to get off the mountain in the thunderstorm and get down. So I told my friends who had never been there to follow me. There's a dark spot in the hole that showed up, or dark spot in the cloud. And I jumped and I flew and I was in the cloud for like almost 10 seconds, it's just like such a bad situation to be in because you can't tell how fast you're going. If you're moving forward, you lose complete sense of direction. And then I came out of the cloud for like a second in a little hole and I went right back into another cloud. And I was just like, okay, all my friends maybe are following me. Like visibility was nothing. Um, but it's like, okay, like keep your heading, keep your speed, feel, like the whole time I was assessing like the sound tells you how fast you're going. So I was listening to the sound, make sure I was flying quickly, trying my best to keep a heading. So I wasn't turning back into the mountain, just praying that everyone was following me, just keeping in mind that there's four other people in the sky that are also lost. So we could potentially be crossing paths. Like that, the level of stress on that jump was just through the roof. And then I get out of the cloud, open my parachute, ended up flying much further left than I thought I was flying, but I was still okay. And then the stress of looking around the sky, looking for four other parachutes to make sure everyone else is okay. Like, okay, that's stress. Like, there we go. Like that we can call stress. And then I see people stressing about, being 5 minutes late for some meeting they have in the car and they're driving like a maniac, like risking everyone's lives. It's like, it's just not worth it. Like, is that really worth taking the risk on the road, putting everyone else's life at risk so you can be 5 minutes earlier or on time to your appointment or work? Like, it just puts everything really into perspective of like how fragile life can be and what we really need to be worried about.
That was literally life or death, that situation, like that's the
Yeah.
thing, right? You're facing it like if I make a small error here, regardless of how small it is, this could be the end of me, right? And also you have the pressure as well. You say, hey, follow me. You've got four friends behind you. I'll lead the way. And then you're in that situation. You're like, oh shit, this could go very south very quickly, right?
Yeah.
Oh
And the
man.
whole time you're like assessing, this is not a good situation. Okay, I need to stay on my game. Like, okay, like this, constantly assessing every second what is going on in my surroundings. And yeah, anyways, I grounded myself for 2 weeks after that. It's like, no more jumping. Ellen, you're grounded.
Yeah.
Naughty,
Yeah.
naughty, don't do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, this so to get back up on the horse again after something like that though also shows quite a bit of mental resiliency. How was it the next time? Was it just like every other time before, or was there a certain hesitancy?
Um, After that jump, I don't think I had any issues with getting back on the horse. There's other jumps. I've had other close. They're not ever close calls, but they're bad decisions made that I recognize. And luckily, I've given myself enough margin to learn the lesson and not do that
Mm-hmm.
again. But like, I remember one time I was training for a race and I was trying to do a new style of pushing and ended up at a cliff that wasn't super forgiving, but a cliff I knew very, very well. And I pushed really hard in the wrong angle, ended up having a horrible start and flew closer to the ground than I would have normally flown. Not in the control that I would have been in. Like I'm always in control, and there was a moment there that I was not in control, and I was trying to save a situation as opposed to flying a situation. And that one scared me so bad that I got to the bottom and cried. because I was like, wow, like that's the first time I ever lost. I was recovering something, not flying. It was, and I went right back up after that jump. I was like, okay, like let's go back and do it properly. Like, and just
Yeah, it's either you
push.
go straight away,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you have like a lot of the people in the sport. You have to go right back up there. Like most people
Hmm.
are like, if I don't go now, like I'll never go, and it gets stuck in your head, and you have those bad feelings. That it's like you have to just like
Yeah.
go air it out. It's like
And like when you say like too close to the ground, like what are we talking about here?
okay. Well, honestly, for me, it felt close to the ground, but my friend who had jumped right behind me didn't even know that there was a problem. Like
Okay. Yeah, yeah,
he was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
because like my fly, like the suit I was flying was good at having high starts. So people had at that time had other suits that started much lower, and I was flying like where they would fly. So they didn't.
Okay.
The person that followed me didn't even know there was a problem. But for me, like I felt it, and like I was, I don't know, 20 meters lower than normal, which like at some
That's
places could be bad.
yes,
It was
that's
enough,
quite
enough to make me
yeah.
cry.
Yeah, yeah.
But still,
Jesus.
still like still at least like 70 meters off the ground or 50 meters off. Still like a nice margin.
Yeah, but when you're
But
going 200 odd kilometers an hour,
it
and
was
as
fast.
you the way that you describe, so like I don't know anything about this sport. Like I'm not there's not I've never done it. I've watched it, I've enjoyed watching it, but the way that you describe it in terms of the competition, right, and how you describe to me, okay, you need to make sure that your heading is right, you need to make sure that your speed is correct, every little move that you make is going to have an impact. Like when you're in that situation, and as we talked about before, it's a bit like flying a plane, except the plane is you, right? And it's also the same when you're flying a small jet or whatever. Like you still need to be careful that you're not too close to the ground. Like you might say 50 meters from the ground, but 50 meters from the ground is still bloody close when you're going 200 odd kilometers an hour, right? So it's it's
Exactly.
it's like the margin for error there, it gets incredibly smaller once you get that close to the ground as well, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, so you're resilient to stress, needless to say, in the real world,
Yeah.
outside of jumping.
Yeah. I'd have to say also like working as a nurse in the ICU has helped me really like control and not get too stressed in stressful situations. It's like between nursing and wingsuiting, I've really learned to like prioritize when I get into a stressful situation. Like, what's the most immediate danger, the most immediate threat? How do I fix that first, and then
Mm-hmm.
step by step. So it's like these things happen automatically by my brain. Where, you know, 20 years ago, it would have had to been a bit of a process to think it through.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been an ICU nurse for?
Uh, well, it's been on and off.
Mm-hmm.
Five,
Mm-hmm.
total of 5 years in ICU.
5 years in the ICU. Wow, that's like and in France as well, right?
No, so now I'm working at a longevity clinic in France, in Switzerland, actually.
Okay,
But
okay,
yeah, so now we're
very cool.
now we're chill, very
Now,
chill.
longevity, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like ICU is all systems go all the time, right? There's like
Yeah.
that to me. I've had some experience with ICU being on the family side of somebody being in ICU, and the people that work in ICU are like I can't even describe like the level of calmness that they have in a situation which is just completely dire. It's probably the best way to describe it, right? So
Yeah.
so like that I can see the parallel from what you've been talking about from when you need to keep your cool in situations and make like very well judged decisions in very tight situations, right? I can see how
Mhm.
there's parallels between both of those worlds, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people actually in wingsuiting that are in the medical field, like lots of like ER doctors, lots of nurses. Like, there's something about the mindset that, or the type of person that likes that kind of job also tends to go towards wingsuiting.
Yeah, I can see it. I mean, I'd never thought about it, but I can see it definitely. Like, I mean, quick decision making, high pace, high intensity, a lot of risk in your decisions. Like if you make the wrong decision, it can have bad consequences, right? Like
Mhm.
I can definitely see the overlap there. And tell me, so this going forward for you, this is your full time at the moment, or this is outside of wingsuit jumping. This is what you're focused on as a nurse, right?
Yeah, right now it's back to nursing.
Back
Now
to nursing.
wingsuiting's my fun hobby, but I'm not doing it professionally right now. I don't think I will do it professionally anymore because I'm a mom now, so
Yeah,
it's different.
fair,
I mean, of
fair.
course, if there's a job comes up for something, I'd be happy to do it, but I'm not hustling.
Fair, fair, fair. And with the kids now, like if they came to you in a couple of years' time and said, "Mom, I also want to do what you do. I want a wingsuit jump." Would you be no worries? Go for it. How would that make you feel?
It's funny we've had this conversation. So we have one kid who like totally will be a great base jumper. Like he assesses everything. He like makes sure he understands everything that's going on before he commits to doing something. And then when he does it really well. But he goes slow and steady and step by step, like never rushing. And then we have another kid that is just freaking off the walls. Like he just sends it all the time. He'll send it, crash, and be like, "Let's go do it again," and do send it and crash the same way. And you're like, "He's learning nothing here," but he's going for it. So he's not allowed to base jump. He can like go bowling or something, but he's yeah. You just see like how the brain works is they're totally different.
is it the younger one that's the chaotic one by any chance?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
of
Sendy.
course. Of course. That's how it goes. That's how it goes. No, that's awesome. But hey, look, we're just right up on time now as well. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. Where can people find you?
Well, so Ellen Fratt at Instagram, Facebook, ellenbrennan.com. Just quick Google, you'll find me somewhere.
I'll make sure that all the links are shared in the description of this episode as well.
Thanks. Thank you for the great conversation. It was really fun.
Thanks, Ellen. I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can catch up again.
Yes.
Guys, this has been another episode of Growth Path. Tune in again next week for more great content. Thanks, Ellen.
Thank you.